Sound is caused by vibration, and vibration is a periodic phenomenon. The long strings on a piano vibrate much slower compared to the shorter strings, and they produce a lower tone. For example, the A strings on the first octave vibrate 55 times per second. In technical language, we say the A strings on the first octave have a frequency of 55 Hz. Hertz is the unit we use to express how many times something vibrates in 1 second. The H is always written in capital letters because it's named in honor of Heinrich Rudolf Hertz. One of the greatest skills you can develop for mixing awesome music is to be able to recognize different frequency ranges. You don't have to be too specific, but it's a good starting point to get to know the main areas. The lowest frequency an average person can hear is around 20 Hz. The area between 20 to 40 Hz is called the sub-bass range. You may not be able to hear this if you're listening with small speakers. The sub-bass range is the kingdom of sub-kicks, 808s, and the first few keys of a grand piano. This range is usually felt rather than heard, and it gives the listener a sense of power. The area from 40 Hz to 250 Hz is called the bass range. This is the home of the kick drum, bass guitar, bass synths, and double bass. If you have too much of this range in your music, it will sound boomy. If you have too little, it will sound weak. The area from 250 Hz to 500 Hz is called the low mid-range or the low mids. This is the octave in the middle of the piano keyboard. Most of the vocals and instruments are in this range, and it contains very important information. If you have too much of this range in your music, it will sound muddy. If you have too little, it will sound thin. The area from 500 Hz to 2000 Hz or 2 kHz is called the mid-range. This is where we hear the harmonics of most instruments and vocals, which we will talk about in the next video. Suffice it to say for now that this is the range that gives us the greatest detail. Our ears are extra sensitive to this range, so be very careful. If you have too much of this range in your music, you will be introducing too much detail and it will cause ear fatigue. If you have too little, you will lose detail and dimension. The area from 2 kHz to 4 kHz is called the upper mid-range or the upper mids. This range also has a lot of detail. It contains lots of information on vocals, timbres of instruments, and attack of percussive sounds. So it's very important, but if you have too much of it, it will become tiring. The area from 4 kHz to 6 kHz is called the presence range. This area is responsible for definition and clarity. If you have too much of this range, it will sound harsh and brittle. If you have too little, it will sound distant and muffled. Finally, the area from 6 kHz to 20 kHz, which is said to be the upper hearing range of an average person, is called the brilliance or air range. This area consists entirely of harmonics, which we will talk about in the next video. It gives your music a sense of sparkle and air. If you have too much, it will cause ear fatigue. If you have too little, it will sound dull and muffled. Great! Now you know about frequency and use of the unit Hertz. You know about the main frequency ranges, how they correspond to music, and how they affect the quality of your mix. Now you are ready to move on to the next section where we will talk about a very important aspect of sound that will carry your mixes and productions to the next level: fundamentals and harmonics.